pond. Ow! Forgot I'd moved those. Alright YouTube, welcome back to my garage and today to my very empty engine bay. This is going to be, well, hopefully a short video, but we'll see when I edit it, about all the engine bay wiring looms. I think I've kind of broken them down into 3, left, right, and there's a centre one down there that does all the injectors. So for my own reference, I'll be honest, I wanted to document where every connector goes because I kind of know, and I did make some notes and photos, but when I come to put it back together, I probably would have been faffing about a bit had I not done what I've done in preparation for this video, which is, I'll take you over there and show you. I've done myself some very amateur wiring diagrams. So these are for the 3 looms aforementioned. I say very amateur because, yeah, normally a wiring diagram would have all the wire colours and the diodes and the diodes and all the other things that I don't understand. And to be honest, there'll be proper wiring diagrams of all the circuits and things on this car. But trying to just find this loom and where it goes, I don't think you can do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Please feel free to say this was a complete waste of time because you could just download that looms diagram and it would be this simple to read, but I don't think it would be. So basically what I've done, I've listed things in order that they appear on the loom. I've also put the colour of the connector, not the wire, don't care about that, doesn't help me. Yellow connector, the number of pins, so 2 pins or 2 connections, and what it does. So in this case, we come off the ECU connection, we've got a yellow connector with 2 pins, and it does fuck all. So there. And the next one, we've got a black connector with 2 pins, and it's looped. So again, I don't need to worry about that. That's an earth. I think that's the earth symbol. And again, black connector, 2 pins, goes to the throttle, to the flywheel. Maybe they're my own personal notes, but they're going to keep me right when I'm putting it back together. And that's all I'm really worried about. Not really that bothered about particular accuracy. Like, does that actually go to the flywheel? I don't know, but it goes to the flywheel area, okay? So, let's get started. I'm going to start with what I've classed as the centre loom, which has all the injectors, goes down the middle of the V, also goes way off down the left and right. So let's get on that. So, starting at the top, as I just said, it connects in with a big multi-connector onto an ECU. I'm not entirely sure what that ECU is called or what it particularly does, but it's there. So let's go in the passenger side footwell and have a look at it. And while we're there, we'll have a look at this yellow 2-pin that does nothing as well. So passenger side footwell. Now, when I refer to anything in this video, I'm on about a UK car, okay? I know there's other countries in the world and you have steering wheels in all sorts of wonderful and fanciful places, but in this car, steering wheel's over there, and this is where the passenger's feet sit. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, you need to go to your passenger footwell, remove this flap from here, just put that to one side. Ignore all this wiring, by the way. This is for my glove box mini bar actuator system. I've done a bit of a video on that at Christmas where I got drunk on brandy. So feel free to watch that, and I may do a more technical video one day, but not now. Ignore that. You need to remove this sort of leathery flap thing. It's got some connections and stuff, but I'm not going to go into that now. You'll figure that out. You also need to remove this carpet flap that's up in there. Again, it's got some connections somewhere. I can't remember. Not important. In there you will find this ECU. There's the number if you're interested. DBC 12473. Some other stuff. There's a big white connector here. Connects onto the big white connector here. That's self-explanatory. And then the big multi-core, which I'll show you in a minute, clicks onto there and then heads up into the engine bay. So basically it goes through, see there, there's a little cut through in the insulation. The wire goes to there. Now, in hindsight, what I probably should have done is undone these turnbuckle things and removed the sound deadening, which I'll probably do when I reinstall it. There was just enough room to squeeze the connector through, so I didn't have to worry about that on the removal side. That little yellow 2-pin connector was just, it's about here, and it was just flapping around, and it wasn't connected on my car, so it's never been connected because I've not been in here before, and I couldn't find anything to connect it to. You know, there's nothing sort of hiding in here for it to connect to or anything. So feel free, if you know what it's for and it should be connected, I'm just going to assume that it's something my car doesn't have, because there are a few connectors like that on the XJS that are for old redundant systems or for something. Oh, I thought I'd found it there, but that's just some yellow tape. No, anyway, so ignore that. Let's go look at the connector. So here's that multi-pin connector. So that hooks into the ECU, pushes down, then it's got a little latch on the ECU to keep it locked in place. So we're done with that. Moving down, there's that 2-pin yellow connector that on my car wasn't connected to anything. Like I said, feel free to enlighten me as to what that's for and whether I need it or not. Yes, then we go up into the bulkhead. So this seal comes into play and all sorts of metal mounts. And we'll just talk about the vacuum lines that go through this seal down into the car as well. So on your passenger side bulkhead, up here you'll find, well, under here, so this sits like this, and this is where your thing sits. Oh, is it that way? It's actually that way. What's it called? The actuator ball for the rear brakes and stuff sits there. So with all that removed, well, I would say, and with this removed, but you have to remove the loom to remove that because it has to be fed through it. So that's quite a faff. But anyway, under there, you'll find this void, and in there is where the that multi-core connector wire thing feeds through. So that little semicircle cutout is about there, and it feeds through and comes up. So that's your wiring up to this point. There's no other wiring until we're out of this hole. But I did say I'd talk about vacuum lines. So, oh, I need to go get the bit. 2 secs. Yes, in that hole, you'll find this thing. As you'll notice, as with all the parts that I've removed, it's filed away in a freezer bag with its bits. Let's just open it up and I'll describe what it is. So back over here at the car, this bit of sound deadening sits in there. And then this, I assume this is some sort of vacuum chamber slow release valve maybe or something. Don't really know, don't really care, but it sits in there. And you see these outlets on it. It's got no electrical connections. It is purely vacuum. You've got one that sticks up all erect and the other one straight out. That straight out one, get out of the way, connects onto this white vacuum line that's coming in from the driver's side. The black vacuum line does not connect to that bell housing. What that does is tracks along to the middle of your bulkhead where your water heater, so the stuff for the heater matrix in the car that does your hot air into your face while you're driving, that connects onto the top of there. I'll show you that in a sec. I've found the bag containing that part, and handily the little connector bit is sticking out the top. So basically that black vacuum line connects onto the top there, onto that little micro bore vacuum thing. Okay, so that's that. So So moving that to one side, we've covered that white one, goes onto the straight pipe of this thing. This erect pipe, so that's obviously sitting in there, and out of there comes this black and white vacuum hosing. Just connects on to that upward pointing outlet or inlet, I'm not sure which way around it is. It goes into a thing. Is there a one-way valve thing? I don't know. And then there's a longer length which I've wrapped up, which connects onto the A-bank air inlet manifold at the rear. So let's just nip up in the loft and I'll show you where that other end connects on. So here's your A-bank air inlet manifold, and at the rear there's a load of connections, vacuum connections. This goes on this one here. I'm not sure if it's supposed to have anything holding it on. Mine didn't. Actually, in the previous video, you saw me having a bit of a fight getting that off. It was well sealed on there, but now it's been removed. It might need something. This one above it, let's do that while we're here. So I'll do this in reverse. In there goes a small microbore red translucent vacuum tubing. So this is what it looks like. Obviously I've got it wrapped up for storage at the moment. Where's the end of it? There, you can see. Very small microbore vacuum pipe. That connects onto that ECU down in there. So let's go in the car and I'll show you where that starts. Alright, so here's this ECU again, and that microbore red pipe, or tubing, sorry, just pops into this elbow connector here, and then was cable tied to the electrical main line, which went up through that hole, which then of course pops out here. It then tracks along the bulkhead to the driver's side, where it connects into that A-bank air inlet manifold at the rear that I've just showed you up in the loft. So that's that. And finally, while I'm on about the A-bank inlet manifold rear vacuum things, there's one that's left on the car. Just put that there, file that away again in a minute. That's this one. This comes up, if you look down there, from a hardline connector, hardline pipe. You can see it's like a large gauge brake line. Doesn't want to focus, but you get the idea. That goes all the way to underneath your car, there it is, and runs all the way to the back into the boot, where it connects up to your main ECU, and it gives it some vacuum reading. That end of it connects on to the last remaining port, if you like, on the A-bank inlet manifold. So I'll just show you where that connects onto, and then we're done with vacuum stuff. I mean, this isn't a video about vacuum lines. I just felt it was a good idea to cover those while I was on, because they're all mixed in with the electrical connections on that loom. Okay, so for the final time, red into there. It's also, by the way, it goes off at a little bend, and then there's a little bit of this kind of stuff, but split, that protects it from rubbing on the bulkhead. It's about this long, so just don't forget that. So that's your red microbore. That's your black and white one that goes into that bell-shaped vacuum chamber. This one's plugged anyway, not in use on my car. And this one is that final one that goes to the ECU in the boot. So that's how they all look. Okay, that's that done. So moving on down. Oh, by the way, those vacuum lines I did mention before, there's holes for them in this sort of, what do you call that? Whatever it's called. It's got holes for the vacuum lines, so you have to figure out how they come through. I'll figure that out when I put it back together. But they're there. Moving on down. So we've done that yellow connector. The next one is this black connector, 2 pins, and it's looped, and on the same sort of branch, there's an earth. So, sure enough, come down, and at the same place we've got an earth, and we've got this black, I'm saying 2 pin because it's it's looped on 2 pins. I don't actually know whether it's using 2 or 3 in there. It doesn't really concern me. That is just cable tidy to the main loom, and it does a thing. I don't know what. Let's talk about earths though. So on the bulkhead, you've got 2 earths over there, small ones. One of them's not in use, so don't worry about that one. It's mirrored on the other side, and both of those are in use. Then you've got this center joiny rail, and you've got an earth connection here and here. These are bigger bore sizes, so it's quite easy to work out where your earths go because of where the wiring loom sits and the size of the connector, basically. So that earth there is a small bore earth, and it comes out very close to this earth here. So it basically, you can work out, it can, will you stop focusing on my finger? It connects on here. So moving on down, we've got a black connector with 2 pins, and I've written throttle to flywheel. Now this is where things start to get a little bit personal. I don't actually know if it goes to the flywheel. It just goes to that area. It's some flywheel position sensor or thing. I don't know what it does, and I don't really care. I just need to know where to put it, and there's a few connections go on to the throttle. When I'm talking about the throttle as well, I'm on about this. This is the throttle capstan housing thing that I mentioned in the last video, and basically all these notes are is to keep me right. That tells me, because it's going down to the flywheel, and I'll show you the connector later. At the back, this is how the throttle sits on the car. At the rear is this, well, there's 3 holes here, and on my car only the center one's used to hold a connector. One end of it is, whoops, where's my loom? Is this one, the black 2-pin connector. So that basically sits in the top of there, and it connects to something underneath, which is still on the car. And hopefully I've still got it poking up the top here. Yes, I have. So that is the other end of that connector, still on the car, because it goes down the back on the B side and connects around about the flywheel gearbox area. So that's all the information I need, if that makes sense. It may not be 100% accurate what it does, but it means I know exactly where to connect that back up when I come to reinstall. I'll just show you where it goes anyway for reference. So here it is. You just saw the other end of it up on the top of the engine. It comes down and it connects on around this area here in this corner. Okay, right, so that's that bit done. We now come to the big junction. I'm going to tackle this one first because it's got the least amount on it. So it terminates with the 2 ignition amplifiers that sit on your front cross member. So let's look at the connections first. Okay, so if I lay the loom out, you can see we're coming down. There's the sort of junction, and we're following this one all the way down. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's just focus on these ignition amplifiers that sit on the front cross member. There's your 2 connections on the loom. And if we head up into the loft for the 8 millionth time, I'm going to be going up and down here a lot today. Ooh. Over there is the front cross member, and there's the 2 ignition amplifiers. So they just connect up to there. Obviously you've got to find the routing and stuff like that. We'll do that when I come to put it back together, make it all tidy with the cable ties, but that's where they terminate at. So that's those, and I said we'll come back to this black connector with 2 pins, which I put as crank position. Again, I don't know if that's exactly what it's called or that's what it does, but I know where that connects now. So here's the connector on the loom. It's black and it's got 2 pins. Let's go see. Oh, actually, no, it's not on the car. It's in these bags here. Here is that thing. There's the connector. Again, a black 2-pin connector. So that goes in there. And the other end of it is what I'm calling the crank position sensor. And I'll show you where that goes on the car. Okay, so down the front of the engine, obviously you've got the end of your crank with the thing that does the belt thing. And under there you can see the mount for the sensor. And basically it just pushes up from this side, and there's 2 bolts hold it in. This is a bit of a fight to get out without damaging it, because it's been in there for years. So if you are going to take it out, just get it well lubed and don't force it from the top, because you'll damage that that delicate sensor on the end. There's also this thing here to connect onto the front of the engine just to keep it in line. I think it goes on that one, which holds on the oil feed to the oil cooler, which sits on this cross member. I don't think it's that one. I can't remember. I think it's that one. When I come to reinstall it, we'll find out. But anyway, it's one of these that I've got loose. It's either there or there. I think it's there. So that is that leg of the loom done. Let's move on to the next leg. So that is, now I've got to get the right side here. Ooh, good question. Are we on the A bank side or the B bank side here? Let's just make a note of that first. Right, this is B, this is A. So let's work down the B bank wiring. First off, 2 injector lines. And coming off that, we've got a black connector with 2 pins, which goes to the throttle. So going to the throttle first, we've already covered on the wiring loom, the one that goes to the sensor on the flywheel. That leaves us with this one, which is 6 pins, I think, and the only other one that has 2. So we know it's that one, and here it is on the loom. So we're going down this B bank side. We've got our 2, come here now, don't be a dick. Our 2 injector wires, or connectors rather, and here is the other end of that 2-pin connector that goes on the throttle. Like I said, I don't know what it does, but that doesn't really bother me. I just know it connects onto there, and I think that was cable tied. Again, tidy. Right, I don't think we need to go and get injectors out of the bag of injectors and show you how they click in. That's self-explanatory. So 2 injectors. I don't think it matters which one's which. Again, I need to check that. I did number them, and then I sought professional advice from Andy, and he said the injectors all fire at the same time anyway. I'm assuming it was self-explanatory as to where the loom sits, as to which ones go where. Obviously, you're not going to connect this injector into that one because it just won't reach. I don't know when they're so close together, but I still think it'll probably just make sense where they used to go. Plus, I've got photos to refer to as well. And even if I did mix up that one and that one, I don't think it matters. We'll cross that bridge when I come to it anyway. 2 injectors. Let's just move on. Covered that black 2 that goes to the throttle. So moving on down to the next bit, we've got another injector. So we've done those ones. Moving on down, we've got another injector. And then we've got this black 3-pin connector. And I don't even need to look at the diagram. I know that is the rear coil pack. And again, I should have written that on. Let's have a look. Yeah, black 3 connector coil rear. Do you want to see the coil? Yeah, let's get the coils. Here they are. This is the front one and this is the rear. They have slightly different brackets. I'd actually removed the bracket from the rear one just to start cleaning it up the other day, but I haven't made any further progress. Yeah, that's its back. Let's keep those together. I don't want to mix them up. Anyway, the connector, where is it? Oops, there you go. There's your, looks like a 4-pin there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it actually a 4-pin and I've just written it down as a 3? Well, I suppose it's sort of got a one that's not used on this side. Anyway, it's a 3. Yeah, there's one plugged off there. I was kind of right with 3, but there's 4 pins for it to just locate onto on the coil. It's the same on that side as well, on the front. Yeah, okay. 4, 3, doesn't really matter. I knew where it was going. That's your rear coil, so that sits over here. Actually, I need to remove the brackets still. So it sits on these 2 brackets here, and the front one sits down here. I've already removed the brackets. Can't remember if it's there or there, but I'll figure that out later. I've got photos of that. Anyway, I'm not really interested in the front coil right now. We're interested in the rear. So that is an injector and the rear coil. Moving on down, we have an injector, it off, and the front coil. So I don't really need to explain that. That just goes onto the front coil as just described. Let's put these back in the bag and move on down the loom. So we've covered the two injectors, done that, done the rear coil and the injector. We've done the front coil and the injector. Oh, then we've just got two injectors, and then we'll talk about the connections at the front that just go to the air conditioning compressor. Right, so two injectors, and then we've got a black connector with one connection and a black connector with two that go onto the air conditioning compressor. Ow, just trod on the loom, that's a bad idea. So there's our two injectors, and yeah, we've got a one, well actually it's a 3-pin connector, but it's only using one connection, so that's why I've written black one, and in there, yeah, you've got two connections. So let's go see where they go on the air conditioning pump. Right, here is, oh god, they're heavy, the air conditioning compressor pump type thing. So there's your 2-pin connector slots on the back, and there's the, like I said, 3-pin, but only one is in use. One black connector up the front. Don't know what each of them does, but they're there. So that is, we've done that. We've done that. Let's move that over there out the way. Let's move on to the next leg. So we've done that, we've done that. Now we're on to the A-bank injector wiring. So first thing we come across is a black connector with one connection, and that is the cam oil feed lower. And we've got a white connector with one, which is the cam oil feed or pump top. Oh, okay, yeah, I know what that is. Let's get it out of the bag. Right, here's the parts. This bit of the thing is what I am calling the cam oil pump, and on the top of it, it has a single connector there. So that is going to the white single connector. Whoops, oh, don't do that. So if we follow this A-bank line down, you see you've got the black and the white single connector. So that white single connector connects onto the top of this. I think this is a pump. It's powered and it seems to pump oil. So that's what I'm going with. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me. Again, I don't really care. I just need to know where it goes, and that's where it goes. And then we've got that black single connector, which goes onto what I'm calling the cam oil feed lower. And I say lower because when that's all connected, that sits like that. That bit's higher. And this connector here is lower. So that black single black there. Obviously, they've both got white ends, but so I have talked about the wiring color in this instance, but I'm not confused. So hopefully you're not either. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll just show you very quickly how that sits on the car. So the bit that I'm calling the pump, I think that's where it sits. Yes, I'm 97.32%. That's correct. Can't remember what else is around it at that point, but that's where it sits. And then this bit, that long end goes down there, something like that, and connects onto its oil feed connection. You fall over then, and basically, obviously it's a lot lower. Yeah, there we go. It's something like that. That then connects onto the pump, which is sat on its mountings there. It doesn't want to, and then the banjo connections connect on to the back of each cam thing. Right, hopefully that makes sense. Makes sense to me. Oh, I've got it stuck now. Come on now. I'm certainly not going to feed that all the way through again, because it was a fight to get out. Right, so that's those two. Working our way down, we've got two injectors, and then another injector, and then another injector. Let's just check that. We've done those two injectors, then an injector, then an injector. It terminates on two injectors, so let's not worry about that. But let's just talk about these. How have I listed those? Fuel pressure 1 and 1. Okay, well that makes sense because that's what we've got. Fuel pressure 1 and 1. I'll show you where they go. They go on the fuel rail. So if my car was all together and I was stood looking at the engine, this is how the fuel rail sits. And on this side, underneath, there are the connectors for, again, what I assume is a fuel rail pressure sensor. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which side goes where, if you know what I mean. I think there's a brown wire and a red wire. I can't remember which way around they go, but I did take a photo of that. So maybe I'll try and find out now. I just had a look back through my video when I removed this, and actually, I cocked up a little bit, got a little bit giddy and just pulled it off without checking, unless I wrote it down somewhere, which I might find later. But I did find a photo, which I will put in now. Or rather a screenshot, and that shows that the red wire is at the front. And the other ones behind it, I can't imagine they would have twisted round as I took them off. They quite clearly just sat like that. So I'm going to go with that. Red there, brown. I think it's brown at the back. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's how they want to sit. It wouldn't be like that. So I am confident to go with that. Okay, that's that leg done, which leaves us with this final leg. So working our way along. We've got a black connector with 2 pins, and that goes to the extra air valve. Oh yeah, okay. Well, that's easy. So let's work our way down. Black connector, 2 pins, extra air valve. Right, not to be confused with your auxiliary air valve, the AAV, which is to do with coolant and idle speeds. This is your extra air valve. I believe, and I may stand corrected, it does something where it modulates the idle when you turn on your air conditioning system. Or unlike me, I don't have, or I've never had the air conditioning working on my Jag. But if I did, I think the theory is that when you turn the air conditioning on, that pulls an extra draw from the engine, which can make the engine dip in idle. And this senses that and automatically raises the idle slightly. I think that's what it does. Anyway, there's the other end of it, which is that 2-pin black connector. And that end there, this is your A-bank air filter housing, which sits on the car like that. And that extra air valve slots in here. Should be a grommet. Mine's not the original one, and I should probably get one that's a bit more of a tight fit. But anyway, that sits in there. Right, so that's that black 2 extra air valve done. Working down, we've got an arm that goes off with a black connector with 2 pins, which is blank. So let's just find that and cross that off. So we're going down, stop tangling up. We're going down this bit here. Whoops, come here. Black connector. Well, I don't know how many pins it's got, but it's got 2 connections. Whoops. And I've written blank. I mean, it's not really a blank. It's probably some loop type thing. But anyway, I'm not concerned, basically. That just tells me I don't need to worry about that. It will have been cable tied up tidily. We then have these 2 single connectors. What have I written for them? Ah, yes. 1 and 1. So that's A bank water rail temperature sensor. So let's see where they connect onto. Right, here's the water rail bags. This one's clearly the B bank because there's your AAV, or auxiliary air valve, that I was just talking about. So I'm not interested in that right now. So this means this is the A bank water rail. If you want to see these in situ, by the way, I think it's in my previous video or the one before that where I removed them, so you can see them all laid out. This front section has these temperature sensors in. So what we're on about, we've got 2 together, 2 single ones together, which is the A bank water rail temperature. So that'll be these 2 here, basically. So where did it go? There. So you've got that blank, and on that line, those 2 connectors will connect onto these 2. I am fairly confident it doesn't matter which way around they go, and they'll just, again, kind of want to sit where they want to sit. So I'm not going to worry about which way around they are now, if you don't mind. So that's that done. We've done that. We've done that. Let's work our way down. Right. Let's cross off this blue single connector first, which is the other one of these sensors. So see, there's a single one there. So if we work our way down here, now I'm saying blue. this doesn't look genuine to me, so I don't know if I've replaced that at some point or whether I just replaced the I've certainly replaced this end with a new connector. I do remember that snapping off years ago. So whether it is a blue wire or not on your car, I don't know, but there'll be a single out of this arm here. There'll be a, ignore that, that's not part of it. Hit my foot under there, there we go. Yeah, there'll be this lot, and there'll be your single connector here, and the single connector goes onto your A-bank water rail there. Right, that's that done. I want to get that out of the way because then we've got a bit of faff with this blue 2-pin connector, which is this one here. So blue 2-pin connector. That connects onto your hot start solenoid. So let's get that out of the bag. Right, this little arrangement is to do with the hot start. I think it actually goes that way. Hot start system on the Jag. Bit of a nightmare on my car, and actually one of the reasons I started filming and putting this stuff on YouTube, because on my car this was all disconnected when I got it, and trying to find how this is actually supposed to be routed on these later cars was a nightmare, because it's kind of the same routing, but on cars before I think 1992 or something, this was mounted sort of down here at the front of the engine, and that kind of made the diagrams all kind of in reverse, and you had to kind of work out actually where everything was going. Now, I'm not going to go into how that's actually routed vacuum and all that kind of wise right now. I'm just interested in where it sits on the car roughly, and that connector. So there's your blue 2-pin. That goes into this solenoid. Right, you're going to have to use a bit of imagination here, but imagine the water rails on and the inlet manifolds. Basically on the throttle housing, there's a connection here for this, and I will show you it in the loft in a sec. And basically it sits something like that. So that blue connector is going to be around this area. I can't remember exactly the orientation. On earlier cars, it's down here somewhere, and all in reverse, and it was an absolute headache. Right, here's the A-bank inlet manifold, and obviously the throttle housing. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself because I'm usually very anal about how I file stuff away, as you may have gathered. Basically that sits on there, but there's a bolt and a spacer, and it should be in the bag with this, and it's not. So I'm not sure what I've done with that right now. But yeah, then there's a little 8mm headed bolt that threads in there and holds that on. So basically that's where it sits. Right, well, I spent about 2 hours of my life searching high and low through the garage. Completely unsuccessful. So I went to the pub, had me a Sunday pint, and then thought I'd take the dog for a nice walk in the sunshine. Because I realised I very rarely find things by up and over. Go on in. There we go. I very rarely find things by actually looking for them. Generally, little countryside tip, by the way, never put your hand on top of a stile. It's always covered in shit. Yes, very rarely find things by looking for them. Generally, you find them by sitting down or relaxing, taking the dog for a walk and thinking where it could be. And I think that process has worked out for me again, because I've been looking, thinking it should be in the bag along with the hot start system, because that would make sense. It's the bit that holds the hot start system onto the A-bank inlet manifold. So I'll bet you when I get home, I'm going to look in the A-bank inlet manifold bag of bits, and I reckon it's going to be in there. I'm 87% hopeful. So let's finish this dog walk off, and then yeah, we'll go find out. By the way, I know this farmer. Those sheep don't give a shit about this dog, vice versa. So don't all start writing in going, "Hey, don't you be on a lead with the sheep." Just know, our farmer's not in, but Meg is. Meg loves Ollie. She's a proper flirt with him. Look at her. You're a hussy dog. What are you doing? What are you doing to yourself? All right, dog. Don't be rude. Come on in. Oh, hello, Meg. Hello. You daft mutt. It's a hard life, isn't it? Yes. What's he doing? Come on in. Right, got back home, went up in the garage, located the A-bank inlet manifold bag of bits, and sure enough, look what's in there. There we go. I don't call myself Jaguar XJS OCD for nothing. For me to lose a part would be unusual, because I am very, very organised about how I file stuff away. In that case, though, it was just a bit of a misunderstanding of my own brain. I am actually going to put that in the hot start system bag, because I feel like it should be in there, not in there. So that's what I'm doing. Right, moving on. Actually, just before I put it away in its correct bag, obviously I just thought I'd show you. Yeah, so that's so basically the spacer goes on like, whoops, like that. Then your solenoid, and then the thing gets screwed in. Because if you don't have the spacer, I think the solenoid fouls or something. So it's Friday afternoon in the Jaguar factory. They must have just gone, how do we fix that? That's what they came up with. Right, nearly there. Well, where did I get to? This is like 3 days later for me, and now I'm lost. That's it. We've done the hot start solenoid. You guys have just heard me talk about that. That was days ago for me. But anyway, that's done. Anyway, the last one on this arm is a black connector with 2 pins, and that connects onto the A-bank air filter. So let's have a look at that. Right, it's the last thing left on this spur of 3. Black connector, 2 pins. Let's go up and look at the air filter housing and how it connects on. Okay, there's the A-bank air filter housing. And if we look in here, you'll see there is some sort of sensor jobby sciencey thing going on, and on the back of it is that connector, the black 2 pin. I don't know what it does. I assume it's an air temperature sensor or something. I don't really care. Again, all I'm bothered about is where the electrical connection goes. That's where it goes. Finally, on this center loom, number 1, we have this spur ending with 3 connectors. 1 black 7, 1 black 6, and 1 green 6. And I've written connect on driver's side inner wing. They are here, so they're sort of a little spur, if you like. Maybe I haven't drawn that completely accurately on my very scientific diagram, but you get the idea. They're on a separate little leg. It's a bit mucky in there, isn't it? Yeah, you've got a black, what did I say, black 6, a green 6, and a black 7, I think, although it's got 8 pins, but you can see one of them's not in use. So I can see why I wrote 7. They just connect onto connectors. They don't connect onto relays or sensors or anything like that. They are just connectors. Their connections are all on the driver's side loom. In fact, I can see them here. There's the green one. There's the black 6, and here's the black 7. And all of that ends up down here on the driver's side inner wing. There's a holder here. I think it's this one. And they just click together. So basically they just join the 2 looms together. So with those done, I believe that is all for this loom. So I'm going to go and have a cup of tea and then think about if I can be bothered. Oh, actually, just before I go for a cup of tea, let's just put that one there out of the way. So this is the driver's side loom, and you can see here, the green 6 and black 6 together, and then on a separate part of this loom, the black 7. So that is those 3, if you like. If I just show you on the car again, like I said, the green and the black are together, and separately, but on the same loom, is the black 7. Did I say that right? Well, I'll find out when I edit it. Right. It's another 3 or 4 days later, because I've been busy doing stuff in the garden and making like bamboo water runs off my garage gutter into a pond. Lots of water engineering has been occurring. And yes, I've just sat down and edited what I've done so far. I don't know if you remember at the start of this video, I said hopefully it'll be a short video. And when I said that, I kind of hoped to do all 3 looms in this video. But I've just noticed the time timeline thing is about 45 minutes or something already, which is way long enough for a video on YouTube about looms. Fascinating stuff, I know. So I'm going to call it a day there, finish off this edit, and I shall tackle the well, one of these looms. Probably start with this because we've already started on it anyway. This driver side loom in the next video, and depending on how long that takes, maybe do another separate video on the other side. So yeah, sorry for the long delay between videos at the moment, but yeah, being busy out here, because that's new. Hello, dog. And then we've got this thing, look. I feel I have to show this. I think people who have Jaguar XJSs will appreciate the fact that I have a water feature with a remote control that takes the water off my garage and into my pond and then through an overflow. I don't know if you give a shit, but I'm showing you anyway. And we had a thunderstorm yesterday as well, and it worked perfectly. So I was very happy about that. Anyway, that's enough about looms and ponds. See you next time for not about ponds, but more loom entertainment. Is it entertain? I don't know. Whatever. See ya.